Now, in addition to paragraph text, Dreamweaver also has the capability of creating what are called headings. Now, headings are actually used as titles. So if you want to have content in your body paragraphs, you want to have a line of text here, but then you want to have a separation. You want a whole other section of text, but it has a different title that relates to the next section of text narration, but all ties in together talking about one theme, then you'd want to use headings, which are divisional titles. Now, there are 6 headings in Dreamweaver, and the way we create them is basically like this. Under our paragraph text, notice where the P ends. I'm just going to hit Enter, and I'm going to maintain it inside the middle div, which is the middle div that contains all the text inside the body paragraph just for this lesson. And those headings basically are broken down like this. I'm going to start with the less than value. I'm going to type in H1, and then I'm going to close it. All right, I'm going to hit Enter, and it's H1 stands for heading 1. I'm going to open up another one, do H2, and that stands for heading 2. Close it. I'm going to do H3, close it. H4, close it. H5, that stands for heading 5, and then of course heading 6. Now, when you create all these, you also got to have the ending part of them, just like divs. So I've got to do a less than / there it is, and you'd want to type your text in between these. There we go. So this is exactly what we want. All 6 of them. And then what I would do is I would type in the text that I want displayed in my body. So I'm just going to type in hello for this. Okay. And as soon as I type it in, notice how it comes in. Now it appears differently than the paragraph text. Okay. It's actually capital. I've got it where the letters are more bold and a lot larger. So heading 1 looks like so. Heading 2 looks like this. Let me bring my middle divisional line down here. Take a better look. Heading 3 looks like this. And as you can see, they're getting smaller in scale. So 1 is the largest, and 6 is the smallest. All right. Now, you don't have to be limited to what the headings contain, even the color. All you got to do is go into CSS. And right after the middle, what we're going to do is we're actually going to type in H1. Just like we typed in just the letter A. We don't need a number sign because there is already built into Dreamweaver. Spacebar, bracket. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the color. So I'm going to type in color, colon, and I can select a color from the menu. Just for this lesson, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say blue. And voila, fully updates, right? Semicolon. I'm also going to type in font family. Now, what is font family in Dreamweaver? With a hyphen in between font and family, with a colon. And as soon as I hit that colon, notice that I get a arrangement of various fonts to select from. So if I click this little drop tab inside this little submenu, I've got these, and these are what we call web-safe fonts. And these are the ones you really want to use. You want to avoid using any font you might download, like this is not graphic design, this is web design, but you want to stick with these web-safe fonts. They're giving you a list of web-safe fonts. I highly suggest stay in this and don't use special fonts you download from the internet because they will not show on certain tablets, mobile devices, etc. Okay, so let's just say let's do we'll just do the impact. That's one of my favorites. I'm going to double click from the list, and now all the impact information comes right across. Exactly what I want. Hit semicolon, space, and then another thing you can mess with is what's called font size. So if I type in font hyphen, or hit the minus key, size, and then add a colon, as soon as I add that colon, you get these different point values. Now you don't have to use these. You can type in whatever you want. Just for this lesson, I'll say I like 118. I end it with a semicolon and close my bracket. And now look at my my heading. So you're not limited to what your headings can do. You can modify them as you wish. So if I wanted the pixel value to be a little bit larger, I could make it 45, and voila, it's at 45. another question I've had many times in the past is say, okay, Adam, I got a divisional heading, but I want to have another section of paragraph text to kind of come flowing right under it. Well, that's pretty easy. Let's go back to source code. Let's just say we had our heading, which is heading 1, and we wanted another set of paragraph text. I'm just going to basically say, okay, let's take all this and let's have that come after heading 1. As soon as I add that, and once that's modified, you'll notice how the text appears right after the heading. So that's the best method to use. I could have. It's probably wise to maintain continuity of your headings. So if you do have a specific color or a heading that appears right here in the middle of the paragraph, you probably want to have one in the beginning as well. So let's just click, drag, select, go Control C, Command C on Mac. I'll add another heading here in like the beginning of this paragraph text. So this is kind of the proper web construction method you want. Let's go do another heading 1, and that's exactly how you'd want it. You know, you would want to be hello. It'd be like title. You know, title 1 here talks about that section in the body. Title 2, you could do that. And then another question I have at many times in the past is they say, okay, I need an extra space here. Well, the best way to create extra spaces is use what's called line breaks. You can add line breaks very easily. So if I add a line break, it's basically I would have a open greater less than BR, close, open, / BR, and then your line break is applied. So it's kind of like an enter down, and that is what we call a line break. It's got your BR. And that way you can create some sectional spacing too, in addition, as you build your paragraph. File, save it, and let's just look at what it looks like in the browser with the new titles in there. All right, works perfectly. Very nice. So online advertising is really huge, especially for website design. You'll see all kinds of ads floating around across websites. This is a neat little website I found called science.howstuffworks.com. Notice this leaderboard up here. It's a Home Depot ad. Pool time. You scrolling down, and here's a sidebar. Here's another ad being sponsored by Home Depot. Same product. And you know, companies like Home Depot that's being shown in this ad, these ads, are basically paying money to host their advertisements on this website. So owners of this website are receiving additional profits, and then they get a percentage of income based off click, how many viewers might click these ads, and that's additional revenue and profit that goes into an account for that company just through website traffic, and it pays off employee salaries, annual salary. So how do we incorporate ads into the lesson that we're learning now? Well, this is pretty cool. So all you got to do is notice that we set up the left and right sidebars. If I go into source code and I come on down, we have our we could add one in our right sidebar, or we could add one in our left sidebar very easily. Now here's a neat little ad I found online. This is a surf and turf every Friday in August, 25 bucks. Okay, BYOB. It was a skyscraper banner ad I found through Google research. I came across. I thought it was really good. I decided I'm going to use this just for this lesson and insert it into the web page that we're working on. So once you find something that you think would work just for exploration as it aligns with this lesson, remember, view the image, but then through the thumbnail, but then actually click on View Image after you select it, and make sure you're right-clicking on and saving Image As, and saving the real version from here. Okay, reflecting back on what we learned prior. So I'm going to save this image, and what I want to do is I want to save it into my root folder and into the images folder where the logo was that we saved earlier. And notice how I've already saved it. So I'm going to save it here. I'm just going to say I want to replace it. Give it a name that's really good for naming conventions. You know, all lowercase for web design. Have the hyphen. Don't have very long naming conventions like all those different characters and symbols that can appear if you don't rename it. If you have it too long, it's very possible that will result in bad loading for FTP purposes, and the images will not show even if the website's published. So you want to make sure you have short naming conventions for all your files, especially images and being JPEG. So I'm just going to rename it what I've already saved it as, add BYOP restaurant, say yes, and in Dreamweaver, in our layout that we have here, I'm basically just going to come on down to, let's do the sidebar left, and I'm going to actually just click the left cursor where it comes at the end of the div, hit enter, and on the next line down very easily, all you got to do is go to insert. Now the first thing we want to do, this is where Photoshop becomes your best friend, is in Photoshop, and you can see I already got it open. I'm going to File, Open. I'm going to track this thing down. It's going to track down the ad that we've saved and click Open. And when it comes in, immediately I want to go to Image, and I want to go to Image Size. I want to check this thing out. Notice that it's 160 pixels wide by 600 in height. Okay, 72 res is what we want because that's basically the resolution you view on the internet and websites is all in 72 res, not 300. 300 is for print. So, but 72 res is what we want. And if we go into our web layout, remember, if you can recall, let's go into the CSS section. Our banners, left and right sidebars for the banners, is 150 pixels wide by 500 pixels vertical. So we need to modify this. So what I'm going to do in Photoshop, I'm going to hit cancel, is I'm going to go File, New, and I'm going to make it 72 res. We want RGB color because that's web, and we want 150 by 500. You can see I've already pretty much set it up. Again, 150 wide by 500 in height. So I'm going to type in 150 by 500 and make sure you have pixels selected. Click OK. Creates me a new doc. I'm going to take this tab. I'm going to click and drag and float it. And then with the selection tool, I'll just click and drag and drop it into the new layout. And when it comes over, notice that it's a little bit larger than what it appeared in its normal size. So I'm just going to close this and I'm done here and brought it over. All you got to do is basically go to Edit. You can transform and scale. And while I've got the scale activated, hold Shift, click and drag one of the corners, and you can scale it down, and it maintains uniform scale. I'll just go ahead and move this thing around into position. Fit better for that res. You can use the arrow keys. So once you get it, hit enter. Looks good. And then I will File, Save As. And I'm going to save this back into the root folder under Images. And inside here, I'm going to name it. Select JPEG as an option. Make sure you don't select the 2000. You want the standard JPEG. And I will rename it. I'll just add a 2 at the end of it. That's good. And hit Save. Quality 12. Click OK. And now back in Dreamweaver, if I go to Source Code, and I already have my cursor flashing in that area between the div for the sidebar left, I'm going to go to Insert, Image, and I will track down that modified version, of course, we just made, and I'm clicking OK, and there you go. Your ad is dropped directly into the sidebar, and it looks good. Now the footer at the very bottom is pretty much cropping off and cutting the ad slightly. So in order to fix that, we can go into CSS, and because this is going 500 down, I can simply modify the footer. And the footer bottom is right now at 0, and I can make it -50 because that is the amount of pixels we use to add in the navigation bar. And once I make it a negative number, negative 50, notice that the footer drops down, and now we can see all the ad within the sidebar. So the footer is really, really important for website design because the footer allows you to place in your copyright information so your viewer audience, when they land on your website, can see the footer and understand that you're pretty much all up to date with all your content across your website. So that's why the footer is one of the most important parts. To include text inside the footer, it's pretty much easy. All you got to do is basically come on down and find the footer, and at the very end of the first part of the div, hit enter. And inside here, you can incorporate any kind of text you want. If you remember from what we just learned, we did headings and paragraph text. Right here for the footer, I will do basically a heading. I'm going to do heading 2 this time. So I'm going to do a heading 2. Oops. And inside heading 2, I'll type in the website name, which is Scott Evans. So I'll do and we'll do copyright 2016. Okay. And once that's applied, if I go ahead and scroll on down, I'll see that that heading is inside the layout. Now we haven't modified it further using CSS, so let's go and do so. Right now it's just coming up as the default black text. So I'm going to go into CSS, and at the end of heading 1, I'll just go ahead and create another line. So I'm going to enter down and type in H2 for heading 2. Start a bracket. Let's follow along with what we did with the heading 1 previously. So I'm going to type in color, and let's do white. Font family. For the font family, I'll try to keep a little consistent. Let's do the impact. And I'll add a semicolon. Font size. Now, font size, you kind of want the copyright to be much smaller around the paragraph text size. So let's see what 16 looks like. Semicolon and in brackets. So there is the copyright 2016 with the impact text. Not too thrilled about the impact text. So let's see. See if I can grab something else. It's very hard to read. This looks good. Yeah, that's much better. You want your copyright to kind of reflect, you know, your hyperlinks and your paragraph text at all costs, and definitely have it around that scale right there. That looks good and easy to read. And last but not least, we can add a little space there for the copyright. So again, the footer is heading 2. So at the end of font size, I'll hit space and I'll do padding. And let's do like 20 pixels. That'd be good. Closing bracket. And you can see that pushed away from the edge pretty well. You can do create a number if you want. 30. That looks pretty good too. There we go. Pretty satisfied with that. And yeah, that completes the whole lesson as far as the build out. And now comes all the linking of all the pages. You know, we have to create all the individual pages that align with all the page content that we created for this web layout. So to do that, basically all you got to do is we have been saving this page as kind of the home page, which is the index.html, by just going to File, Save. If we go to File, Save As, and inside the root folder, if I'm to name the next page, as it has it set up in line, the About Us, and notice how I put all the characters in lowercase, no spaces. If you have to use space, do a underscore or a hyphen, and hit Save. And then I have an About Us page, .html. Okay? And on the About Us page, I could go ahead and change the text if I wish. Let's go ahead and go File, Save As. Let's say I have a inventory page. If you're doing an artist portfolio website, you would have portfolio page. This is giving me my inventory.html. Save. And then I would also do a file save as, and I'm going to create another HTML. I'm going to call this one my contact.html. Save. Now, notice that all my HTMLs are now created. Those are all my pages. Okay, on the About Us page, you can now change. What's really great about Dreamweaver is you can keep all these tabs open and available, and you can see your whole website now, all your web pages. And then on the About Us page, you can change the content, so you don't have to have the same line of text. If you want to maintain the continuity of the colors and paragraph text, heading, whatever you're doing, go for it. Under source code, you can change whatever you want. Heading, you can change, whatever your main quote is. You can say About Us up top, so now it reflects the About Us page. Go File. Now I'm just going to go to File, Save, and that will overwrite directly in the root folder. Inventory, I can change again the heading that you might have. I can name this inventory. If you're doing the portfolio website, you can name this portfolio. I'll File, Save, and then of course we have the contact. So under the contact, I can then go back in wherever your headings are, rename it contact. And of course in the contact, you might want to, the paragraph text, whatever text you're using, you might want to have your email, there you go. Phone, you might want to have your phone. Let's see, your contacts. And to put that onto its own separate line, you can easily just add a break. And there we go. If you want to get some double spacing going on, just add another break. So I'll just click, drag, copy this break. Left click at the very end. Get the cursor activated, hit enter, and just Control V and paste it. And notice that you can have some nice spacing there if you wish. File, save. We'll save it as my contact. And before you preview in the browser, you want to make sure again that your links are set up accordingly. So make sure that all your navigation looks like this: index.html, aboutus.html, because you've been saving these pages into your root folder. So this is how it should appear to have proper navigation. If it does not look like this, your pages will not link to one another. So again, be sure you double check this and make sure. As you can see, I've been messing around doing some editing. So if I go to my About page and look at my navigation, some of my linking got a little bit thrown off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my navigation looks like this on my About page, as well as my inventory and my contact. We go to About, yeah, say. Just going to override and paste that in. Resave it. Make sure you save it before you preview it in the browser as well. Inventory page. That's how we want it. File. Resave that. Contact page. Make sure your navigation is set up accordingly as well. File, save your contact page. And if you go into the index page, again, if you go to File to save it and it's great, it means to save. Go to Preview in Browser. It comes up, and you should be able to click on your tabs, and you should be able to navigate throughout your whole website. Website is responsive. Every page. And if you want to add images into your body content, you can see that I've already done some research online. I found a image of a car that I want to include into my inventory page. So if you are building like an artist portfolio website, you'd want to incorporate your works, visuals of your works. You can do it this way as well. So in Photoshop, I'm going to go ahead and File, open that image that I found. And notice it came out like, looking like this because it's a PNG file. Well, the image size is 800 by 600, which is way too big. And what I would do is go File, New, and I found out for this lesson in the website that you're building, this responsive website, make sure your images are anywhere from 3 to 400 pixels wide. So do about 400 pixels wide. So I could take this image and go actually image size, and just in image size I can make it, let's say 400 wide, and as long as you type in 400 and you have the constraint proportions checked, the height automatically updates. So I'll go 400 wide, hit OK. There it is, and I'll go File, Save As. And I'm going to save this not as a PNG but as a JPEG, and I'll save it. As you can see, I've already had it saved. I'm just going to override. I'm going to name it as Car1. Click OK. And in Dreamweaver, just like we inserted the ad for advertising needs, I'm going to go to my inventory page now, and I'll have this image appear after the text. So you can have a description of your work or this car, whatever it is, and I'll find that in the source code. Right after the paragraph text, let's see right here. I'll hit Enter, but make sure it comes before that div for the middle when we're working, and I'll just go to Insert in Dreamweaver, go to Insert Image. Same as before, find that image that you modified, click OK. It's in. Come on down, and it appears inside the body content. So after we insert the image of the car into the body paragraph here for your inventory, or if you're doing a artist portfolio page, you're noticing that the image goes slightly underneath the footer. In order to fix that, you actually have to set up another CSS style sheet. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go over the same place we did when we created a style sheet in the CSS Designer, and I'm going to hit the plus tool. And I'm going to say create a new CSS file. Same as before. And then in this one, I'm actually going to call this inventory forward hyphen CSS. And I'm going to browse, and inside my root folder for the style sheet, I will call it inventory forward CSS, and hit save. And then click OK. So now we have two style sheets here. If you're noticing, I have a contact HTML, and it's reading the CSS. The about us is reading the CSS. The index is reading the CSS. But the which is the original one, and the inventory is reading both the CSS and the inventory.css. So what we got to do here is I'm actually going to take the inventory CSS, and notice that there is nothing even incorporated here. So I'm going to go to the CSS file itself, all the content that we created, and in here I'm just going to click, drag, and select pretty much everything that we've done, and go Control-C, Command-C on a Mac, and then in the inventory CSS style sheet we just created, I'm going to basically just go Control-V or Command-V on a Mac and paste all that in. Okay, so all that content's going to come over. Now here's what's most interesting is we actually have to understand how to link the new CSS style sheet to this one page. And the way we do that is under inventory, you go to source code now, and what you want to do is within the source code you're going to find the link where it's linking out the CSS file, and it's this code right here. So notice how it is reaching out to the original one we created, which is the CSS, but we want it to reach out to now the new one, which we named the inventory. So if you're building, again, an artist portfolio website, you probably want to call it portfolio-css. So here, I'm actually going to change this to not css.css, but it's got to be the inventory forward hyphen CSS. So I'm going to type in inventory forward hyphen CSS. Alright, so now once that is linked to the new CSS file. Let's go in there. And what we're noticing is the whole idea of this is the image after inserted goes below the footer. Well, we only want the container to be modified only for the inventory or your portfolio page. So what I would do is basically under the min height, I would make it a higher value. So I'm just going to do 1,000 for this lesson. And notice that drops down, okay? And now let's save the inventory page. So file save, save all the updates, and let's go back to the About Us page. And notice that the About Us page remains the same because it's linked to the original CSS, but the inventory is now linked to the new one. And that gives you the ability to make modifications to the inventory or your portfolio page as needed. And finally, you want to make sure that all your web pages are properly named for the tabs. So this helps with search engines looking for your website online. And the way you do that to change the tab name for all your web pages is if you look under the source code, which is right here, you'll find a title section. And if you notice right now it's called Untitled Document. So if I was to preview my index page here inside a browser, you'll notice that it says Untitled Document. That's not what you want at all. So I'll close this out. What we want to do is we want to name it as it reflects the name of the website. So here I would name it and if it's your own personal portfolio website, then you would pretty much name it either the name of the theme of the website or your name as the artist. Now I'm going to file save, and then we will go ahead and just copy that. So Command C on a Mac or Control C on a PC. Click on the About Us page and just go ahead and Control V, file save the About Us page. Do the same for the inventory page. File save, make sure you're saving your updates. And the contact page. Control V, file save. Let's go back to the index tab. Let's go to File, Preview in Browser. As if we were laying on the home page, go Preview in the browser, and you'll notice that your tab is now updated. All the links work accordingly. All the pages look good. It's a responsive web design. If I squeeze in the contents, everything spans down. For project submission, you will want to right-click on your root folder if you're on PC and basically just go to Send to Compressed Zip Folder. And once that's created, a zip folder version of that root folder will appear on your desktop or within whatever folder that you created your root folder in, and you're going to want to submit that file there for project submission. And that concludes the lesson for building a responsive web design, 4-page web layout. Thanks for watching, and have fun building your websites. Keep in mind that you can go to my LinkedIn page at linkedin.com if you would like to link up with me and have me as a resource and a reference in your list of contacts. You can send me a message at my LinkedIn, and that will reach out to my Yahoo email, hence my Gmail accounts, and I can always be there to help you. Thank you for watching, and look forward to working with you.